Hello, and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. I am so incredibly grateful and excited to share today's guest with you, Mia Luz. And I have had the pleasure of meeting her recently through one of her transformational drum birthing ceremonies. And I can't wait. I know we're going to talk all about it, to share a little bit of who she is in the world. Mia, aka the Drum Doula, is a ceremonial guide and life alchemist. Her work empowers seekers to reconnect with their essence and soul purpose through Akashic records, transformational workshops, ceremonies, and drum birthing rituals all across the country. She is a keeper of the sacred and has undergone numerous initiations beyond the veil, forging a deep connection with the divine and the unseen. She draws from her Taino and Swedish ancestry, Ojibwe teachings, and earth-based traditions. Mia blends intuitive wisdom with all of this deep spiritual knowledge. She's a devotee of Mother Earth, honors the new earth frequencies, fosters healing and awakening everywhere she goes. She is a compassionate guide who inspires self-trust, emotional freedom, liberation, and helping others navigate cycles of transformation and reaching their fullest potential. So again, Mia, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so grateful to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the first question I love to ask people is that when you hear that phrase to follow your spark, what does that mean to you, if anything?
It means my life. I think that's what I've always done. I always had a hard time following the prescribed path, so to say. I always kind of follow my spark, even though it took me into all kinds of places. But yeah, I think I'm a spark follower.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like just a way that you've lived life over the years. I know I've gotten the pleasure of hearing a little bit about your story and about your journey, and I would love if you could share maybe a couple of those, like, tipping point moments that really stand out to you that kind of guided your path.
Oof, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest tipping point moment was really chronic illness,
Mm,
where I had no choice but to just be still and hunker down. I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. I was, yeah, pretty dysfunctional for a few years.
mhm,
So with that gift, you can take that and run if you have the ability and courage to. And I think that's what I did. So I think that
mhm.
was the biggest tipping point.
Yeah. What was the biggest gift in that?
Um, Really to stop and to listen and follow and trust, because
Mhm,
I was forced to do that. I didn't have an option, but
mhm,
if option, it can be really scary to kind of let go of everything that's familiar and quote unquote you think is safe,
mm,
jobs and homes and stuff. But if you have
mhm,
a choice and you just lose everything, you're gifted a clear slate and zero
mm.
point, and then you can like really just build from there. And it's like it holds a purity.
Mm, yeah. It's interesting when you said chronic illness, I wrote down chronic stillness. And I was like, I don't know if that's what I heard or something and you said, but there's something of like what you just described of it's an invitation to stop and listen and trust. And it's this like 0 point clean slate that kind of forces, invites, encourages stillness.
Exactly. If you have the courage to not, go into victim
Mhm.
and why me, like you can also spiral downwards if you choose to in those situations. So it's
Yeah.
really like if you see that if you learn to spiral upwards, I think.
Yeah. Was it immediate, or did you have some of the, like,
Oh,
spiraling?
of course. Yeah. No.
What helped you shift to that, like, upper register?
Um, I think patience. I mean, I feel I was gifted patience and that and spiritual warfare. I mean, it was very much in the astral plane. A lot of the work was happening that made it shift.
Mm,
So I don't know if I think everybody can connect in that way if they're put in a situation where, like that is a possibility.
mhm.
I don't know if I answered the question. I got a little lost, but
Yeah. No, I'm curious if, like, for people listening, like you said, sometimes it can be hard to have the courage to see illness or something like that as a gift or as an opportunity. So I was curious to hear more of if there was something that helped you, like shift from whether it was victim mentality or anything else? Like what helped you drop into the gift of that experience?
I don't know. I don't have like a pivotal kind of shifting point or anything because it was, many years that I was quite ill.
Mhm.
So I feel it
Mhm.
was like a real gradual, just like
Mhm.
understanding of stepping out of victim and taking full responsibility and not, yeah, like, yeah, it was, yeah, I don't
Mhm.
gradual.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I was talking to someone recently about what it means to trust like logic versus intuition. And for me, I was talking about how intuition sometimes is not crystal clear of like, here's the answer or here's the message. Like sometimes it unfolds gradually, sometimes the message unfolds gradually. So that's a little bit of what I'm hearing maybe in your journey of like it wasn't necessarily of like one moment or one point. It was this journey that took time to maybe find that gift or distill what the meaning was in that experience that evolved as you had patience, as you had courage to surrender to what was happening. Does that resonate or what stands out in that?
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, I kept getting messages the whole time. So it's like eventually surrendering enough to that. And like you said, like trusting enough. And I
Mhm.
think trial and error was a big part too.
Mm.
It's like time after time again, it gets proven. And then finally, you just guided. You come to a place where you surrender and trust it. So,
Yeah. Once you practiced it enough and kind of, like, see the impact of enough, it's finally like, "All right, I'll
exactly.
go on this journey."
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know you talk about a lot of trusting the divine and this connection to this universal oracle. So I'm curious if you could share more about what that means. What is this universal oracle?
Yeah, to me, I think it's basically like the conversation that we have with the Most High, whatever we make that out to be for ourselves. But to me, the Universal Oracle is like you learn the language that you communicate with the Most High,
Mm.
either through numbers or animals or just like nudges and knowings and all of that. I think it's an array of varieties, that information can come in, but
Mhm.
it's also trial and error. Once you learn, how the universe communicates with you, you
Mhm.
pretty clear, like, you know, sentences and words and directions and all of that.
Mhm.
So, which takes stillness to figure that out too, and to open up that dialogue with the universe or, the Most High as well.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So it sounds like the more people are kind of willing to learn that language and willing to be taught by spirit. I've had the exact same experience and just being able to go through that trial and error and seeing like what does the language of the universal oracle sound like to me? And you and I could receive messages in completely different ways and it's up to us to kind of have the stillness and openness to learn whatever that is.
Yes. And curiosity, I think.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
for people who are listening and might be like, "Okay, great. I would love to hear the messages of the universal oracle." Is there anything that you would tell someone who might be on like the beginning of that journey or just like opening up to curiosity and like, "Okay, like great, how do I do that?"
Yeah, well, I usually tell people that you can open up a dialogue, with this universal oracle and say, you can't really ask, too detailed, and time is tricky in that space as well because it's outside of time, but other questions, like yes and no, or if you want to ask about a certain situation or something or have clarity, like tell me, is this the right thing to do? If so,
Mhm.
I want to see a pink elephant in the next 24 hours.
Mhm.
You can really ask for specific things and specific signs within, like in the next 45 minutes or in the next 24 hours or in the next week, show me
Mhm.
a boat that's capsized, or like it can be very specific, but to open up that dialogue, and then when it happens and you do get response, to like acknowledge that and then ask for more, and then you kind of learn the quality and the vibration of those messages. They hold like a different frequency,
Mhm.
and then without the dialogue, like, you asking to get reassurance and everything, it just starts to give you messages and guidance and kind of, show you the way. So
Mhm.
I think start small, but it's important
Mhm.
acknowledge and
Mhm.
have that dialogue.
Yeah. When you say acknowledge, do you mean thanking the spirit or just like following the guidance or what does acknowledge mean to you?
Well, I meant yes, that too, and because the question was, how to start trusting the universal.
Mhm.
So there, I think, like acknowledging and having these, acknowledging that it's something you want to do and
Mm.
attention and having that conversation in your mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Some people it's easier to speak out loud. I usually don't, but for some people it just feels more real to put it out into the external reality through
Mhm.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm hearing of really being able to set the intention of, okay, I want to go on this journey. I want to be open to receive messages. Just even being able to start there is powerful. And then you can even say, okay, may I receive some kind of sign? May I be open to something? And then being able to notice and have the stillness and presence to be receptive to your environment, to your surroundings, so that you can perceive those sometimes like subtle messages that might cross your path.
Right.
Mhm.
And sometimes not so subtle.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I would love to hear if you want to share anything about the messages that sent you on this path to become this drum doula.
Ooh, yeah. Oh God. Yeah, I mean, that was so, because I had all this time gifted to me because I was bedridden and I had a hard time with like sound and light and everything too. So it's basically like dark and silence and stillness for a couple of years. So I could really, dive into this conversation with the Universal Oracle. And I started communicating with Gaia, with our planet as a sentient
Mhm.
being. And, you know, I guess that's more channeling rather than, like speaking with the Universal Oracle when you open up in that way. So I started having these dialogues with her basically, and heard this very clear message. It's like you have to start because okay, so I had done a shamanic apprenticeship and had to buy a drum for this, and I was like, okay, this thing is like there was no connection. It was so
Mhm.
with the drum, and it was a handmade drum. It was a beautiful drum, but it was not that, and I just didn't get the drum. And then I heard from Gaia. Then she was basically telling me that I have to make my own drum to understand what it is because it's her heartbeat essentially.
Mhm.
So I had to extend my heartbeat to create her heartbeat. And then she said, and then I have to help others create her heartbeat to beam it into the mass confusion. Which was, was a very clear message then. And it was also this like, who am I? I'm just a regular person. I thought you need to like study for 7 generations and have all this to be able to make a drum. And it turned out that I have probably been a drum maker in a lot of my past lives. And I just kind of knew it was so innately ingrained in me. And I just listened, because also, again, I had nothing. So I had nothing to lose, which was
Mhm.
part of my gift. So then you
Mhm.
can kind of build up from nothingness, which if you're coming from somewhere, it's hard to jump down and like
Mhm.
down here. But I had the blessing of like anything was a gift and more than I had. So I just followed the calling and started making drums basically. And then one thing led to another. I never thought I would do this. I never, like, I'm going to do this now and I'm going to launch this. And like, it was never, it was just like, okay, I'm doing this. And people showed up. And yeah, it's been a really beautiful unfolding. And I am really just following, I'm just being led and I'm taking the steps as I'm being guided.
Mhm.
Here I am,
Yeah.
10, 50 years later, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and also, like, a reminder that sometimes the universal oracle or spark, whatever it is, can lead us in very unexpected directions, and we have the choice of if we're gonna follow that unfolding or not, and I feel like so often, so many people try to control their lives and, like, paint this picture of, like, "This is exactly how I think my life should go. These are my goals," and there's kind of, like, no room for that spirit direction. There's like so much attachment to and grasping on to goals. Like you said, if someone has things in their life, they have established careers, they have all these things, like it's so full that there's no room for maybe flow or redirection. So I'm just like hearing that on a lot of themes of what you are saying of just like the spaciousness to be led. and the willingness to create that space, or sometimes that life is going to create that space for you so that you can receive and let go of the idea that like we know best or we have all the answers, and be open to being guided by an energy greater than ourselves.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Another thing I'm curious about is you talked and shared a little bit with me about finances and wealth and something called the Octopi Project, which I'm so curious about hearing about. So I would love to know, how has your relationship with wealth and abundance shifted over the years?
Oh, well, so right, and it's actually a good starting point to later go into the Octopi project, because I think it's coming from my journey, a big part of it.
Hmm.
So just to kind of understand a little bit, I think why this was coming through, or why everything happens, and how the divine, works in these miraculous ways. So I have had difficulty getting hides. My hide supplier has had some hiccups, and it's been like 6 months of no hides, and I really can't go to anybody else because of the integrity of, the work that these people do, and I haven't found that anywhere else, quality and integrity of the work. So I was kind of put on a timeout because, I make drums and rattles and I need hides to do that. So if I don't have hides, I can't do anything in that realm. But then I started receive, because then also a prayer came out, because financially I kind of depend on that a little bit. And this prayer came like, okay, if not that, then what? Like, is it time for something else? Because I had written long time ago, which I didn't understand at the time. Now I'm understanding it. I wrote, that the drums are but a stepping stone. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, they're everything. How can they be a stepping stone kind of thing?
Hmm.
But I realized, that they might just be a stepping stone and this is the next step. So it started coming when I, had to cancel all my workshops and had all this time again, like empty space. And it's because my prayer was like, how do I'm so dependent on, the hides coming, and like my drum frames are from Canada, and, it's just, I'm dependent on all these external things. And I was like, how can I secure and not be so dependent on all these other external factors? And also, a lot of people that I, open the records for, the Akashic records for, and I have friends in this situation as well, and my own child as well, who is dyslexic, where like I can see the brilliance in their beings, and their spirits and souls are like really, really evolved and high vibrational. They hold like the templates for this new earth and everything. And it's really hard for them to fit into this paradigm and this world, and hold down a 9 to 5 job, or just kind of to make themselves fit into the box, because they're literally stars. So it's like put a star into a box.
Hmm.
And my prayer was like, there has to be a way where we can support the new paradigm that wants to come in and anchor. But if we're always depleting the people who hold these codes, like pushing them into these boxes, we're never going to get there.
Hmm.
So that was kind of my prayer. And what started coming through is, I mean, it's still like kind of blowing my mind. It started on the 8-8 portal, so it's kind of new as well.
Hmm.
And you'll have to organize all the, it's like writing here and there. And
Hmm.
when it starts channeling, I just have to like write whatever comes at the moment. Yeah, anyway, I have to organize it all. But it seems to be that I received 4 more directions within the medicine wheel, which goes counterclockwise. And it's also not just, anyway, it's like, it's so much to it. But it's 4 more directions that brings the medicine wheel to become a cosmic medicine wheel that spins in all directions, into all dimensions, and into all timelines. And with that, one of the directions is an octopus. It's a cosmic octopus, and octopuses have 3 hearts in blue blood, which I didn't know before, the octopus started coming in, and then I found all this out afterwards, which makes perfect sense. But this specific octopus has 11 arms and can help us update our DNA. So it holds, what I'm understanding, like a frequency or a vibration that can activate our DNA strands so that we can become, the full humans that we came here to be, which is when we have all our DNA activated. And I'm not sure how it happens yet. What I've heard is, like set the container, set up the template for all of this. I'm getting really, really specific instructions, like with numbers and here and there. And I'm like, why is this so particular? And it's basically, I'm getting that the more space for story, the less, it loses its potency. So it needs to be like completely channeled into every detail. So nothing, no story or no part of me can come into this, because this person's like, who am I to do, who am I? And it's like, that's story, let that go. This is what it is. Just put it into work, put it into actuality, and you'll get what goes into that container. But the idea is to help activate, the DNA, but also financially, it will, yeah, I don't know like the right terminology for this either. Support or kind of, yeah, I guess support light workers or people that hold these templates, so that they basically will, so people who come to receive the activation from this octopus, which also includes this blue protection, because octopuses squirt ink into the water to become invisible, so it also, like, you become kind of invisible to astral predators and all this stuff that's happening right now. But I'm also hearing that you become protected from the programs and constructs of this reality. So I don't really know how that works, but that's what I'm hearing. So when somebody comes and sits with the octopus, so octopus is US at the end, which is us, and it wants to be called octopi because it's, you step into your sovereignty and I-ness, which is everything. The pi, so it's the complete and all. It's no separation, because us is separation. So I guess it's a play on words or letters. But whoever comes to receive it, that money will go to support a light worker, so that they have some kind of steady income every month to be able to bring through and ground in their codes. But also the money they receive, it will go to people that are more conscious of, to be a conscious consumer and, not put their money into lower paradigm places. Like, it has to be a certain level of awareness with that. So it's basically the finances that are put into the system goes into a higher paradigm, into this earth, it reaches the people who are here to ground that in, and also, sustainable practices when it comes to food and clothing and all of that. So yeah, that's what I'm understanding right now. That's the principle and the idea of it. But like I said, I've gotten the details of the container, but not really of what that looks like and what goes into it yet. Because I have to trust blindly, is what I'm hearing. It's like you just have to trust this and follow it and set it all in place without knowing. And then just trust that what is going to be filled in is more than plenty, in terms of how that transmission looks like or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it sounds like, again, of just the gift of the spaciousness with the hides not being available, instead of sinking into a place of panic or lower vibrational state or whatever it is. It's like, okay, how can I ask the question of, if it's not this, what wants to come through right now? And being able to trust that universal oracle and invite it again, maybe even on a deeper level of just blindly. Like, you don't need to know, you don't have to know. You can be the vessel for this message and this offering to be birthed through you. Pausing this interview for a moment, because I'm so curious to know, is there a spark on your heart that's calling you forward? Maybe that spark is to go down a different path career-wise. Maybe there's some personal passion that's been calling to you. Maybe you've been contemplating a move for some time. Whatever it is, I know following that spark when you don't know where it will lead can be scary. And the biggest thing I'm hearing in this interview with Mia, and I've experienced in my own life, and I see with my clients again and again and again, is that beautiful things happen when you have the courage to follow those sparks, to follow those intuitive nudges and breadcrumbs that are pulling you forward. We don't always get to know, right, where these intuitive sparks are leading us. And when we have the courage to follow them, that's when beautiful things unfold on our path. So if you are craving support with this is exactly the kind of work I get up to with my one-on-one coaching clients. And this episode is airing at an incredibly potent time of the year. We are in the midst of eclipse season, a time where the energy is ripe for change and transformation. This energy can be a catalyst that propels us into our next level. So if there's something that you've been waiting on, procrastinating on, now is a powerful time to take a step forward. So if you are craving space to reflect, I offer free clarity calls that will help you illuminate that vision, uncover the things that are getting in your way or holding you back, and together we'll explore what are the most powerful practices that can support you to move forward on your journey. If you want to give yourself the gift of imagination, of dreaming, of fueling the fire of your dreams, I invite you to book one of these calls and let's talk about it together. If your heart is saying yes, head to ginacasbarro.com/clarity call to find a time that works for you. All right, my friend, I cannot wait to hear about the sparks that are calling you forward. And now let's get back to the interview. So, yeah, it's just another, and it's funny, I just recorded a podcast episode yesterday about feeling safe in the void. And a message that
Mhm.
came through for me at the beginning of this year was I was originally like, okay, what is this about? I had pulled this oracle card about the void. And I was like, is this about being afraid of the unknown? Like, what's kind of stopping me from moving forward? And the intuitive message that came through for me is that you misunderstand the void. The void isn't something to fear. The void is the birther of all things. And
Mhm.
it's up to you to like melt into the void and flow. And it's
Yes,
like, that's what I'm hearing in everything that you're saying.
yes, 100%. And I
Mhm.
mean, I even got that kind of feedback, from the divine or whatever. That was kind of my initiation to not spiral into fear and scarcity when I couldn't, I had to cancel all these workshops and all of this,
Yeah.
because I could hold steady through that and ask for, okay, what's next? That is why it was granted to me too. So I think that is also part of this, like communing with the universal oracle. Like there is always like action, like we have to, if we receive messages and like things happen in our life, because everything is a message, like here, not getting hides, that was a message clearly, to receive them with grace
Mm.
and also listen to it and act upon it. Because
Mm.
then we are giving the feedback that I trust you and you can give
Mm.
me guidance because I'm listening and I'm following and and then you get more guidance and then you get more guidance and then more particular and more. So it's really, yeah, I mean, I said that in the beginning too, like the dialogue, but the dialogue becomes like bigger and then it kind of becomes your life, it's just how you live your life every day, every second, every moment is a co-creation with the divine.
Mm. Yeah. And the question that's coming to my mind, and it might be like everything that we've already just said, and I think a lot about, and like you've talked about just the importance of supporting light workers and as people who are stars and don't fit in this box to be able to function in the world and in society where we have to buy things and we have to, I mean, we don't have to, I guess, but all these things of just, I feel like I think a lot about how, like I said, how to feel safe in the void, how to feel safe in a life where you're living like this, where you're deeply trusting the moment and universal guidance. And like I said, it could be everything that you just said. And is there anything new that's coming to mind right now, especially for people who don't want to live in a matrix and they really want to follow this path? And there are moments that feel terrifying, moments that feel like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? What would you want to say to that person who deeply wants to follow this universal guidance and trust this path?
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. I guess that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of courage, a lot of trust, but sovereignty. I think sovereignty is the biggest thing, which when we are sovereign, we trust our own guidance system. We've learned to trust the external more than ourselves. That's kind of the programming, and how we are.
Mm.
So it's to shifting that, to trust ourselves and our intuitive nudges and knowing more than external, circumstances and all of that.
Yeah.
And also, when I say courage and that it's a big thing, like you said, like you still have to pay my mortgage and all of these things. And are you willing to let all that go? Because there might be something better on the other side, where you're not
Yeah.
strapped to. So it's also the willingness of letting the universe like rearrange your whole life,
Mm.
which takes time and like I keep coming back to the courage, but it's like if you don't have courage to be homeless for a while or just like have no idea about anything and just trust I am divinely held through it all,
Yeah.
I think the more courage you have and the more you're willing to leap off the cliff, the more you will receive in like a miraculous way. Because I feel like my life is kind of a miracle. It's
Mhm.
not on paper, my life is really impossible, but I say I live in a fairy tale, it's a miracle. And it is, I think, because I've leaped so many times, and just like I've had the courage to just let go and let go. And it's like, okay, what's next? What's next? Show me, as
Yeah.
a single parent as well, through that, even I had the courage to follow. And it's been rewarded in ways I can't even, it's really miracles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So one thing I'm hearing is being able to find that sense of safety and sufficiency internally instead of like needing, oh, I need the job to feel safe. I need money to feel safe. I need all these external things, like to really be able to sink into your own center, your own like sovereign energy, and also believe that there's universal guidance here to support us. And if we can be still enough and open enough to receive that, that we will be guided, and to let go of like the expectation that this is the life I'm trying to put together, and the willingness to just let the universe rearrange it in a way that may be more miraculous than anything you could ever imagine. Mm, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful
I think
reminder.
the thing that came up as you were speaking is, yes, like the safety and stuff inside, but also to co-create with the earth, because that's where we are right now. We are on top of Gaia.
Mm,
And I feel, it's like it's that, yes, it's the most high or the divine, and then it's us, and then it's the earth. It's like that's the sovereign stance in my, worldview, what I have come to, and co-creating with Gaia herself
mm,
for the spiritual brilliance to come through. Like,
mm,
being barefoot on her, having fresh flowers, growing a garden, offering tobacco to the earth, like really having a relationship and working with her,
mhm,
I think amplifies our own sovereignty and trust in
mm,
ourselves. And it's like you throw a little tiny innocent seed in the ground and you have like all this food in the fall. It also teaches us that abundance is there, that it is
mm,
enough for everyone. There is affluence. There is, she shows us that we can trust and surrender because she has,
mhm.
she takes care of us.
Yeah.
So that's a really, I think, important connection to have. And yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hearing of like you said, like the two. Like, yes, the spiritual, universal guidance and the message that can come through. And also we live in this physical, tangible world. And like you said, it's pretty miraculous to put a seed in the ground and then 6 months later, a year later, have tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever it is, and be able to see the real manifestation of abundance and something we can eat or consume or touch with our hands. So yeah, it's a beautiful reminder of it's not just spirit that can communicate with us and send us messages, obviously. We have all these beautiful beings and energies and spirits right underneath our feet that we can connect to in this tangible world that we live in.
And I think we have to. It's half of the being doing thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Mhm.
So, another thing I love to ask is when I think about following your spark, I think a lot about just like following the random breadcrumbs, the random curiosities, everything we've just been talking about. Is there anything else that you haven't already mentioned? You've already mentioned a lot, like the Octopi project, but anything fun or random that you've been following lately that your spark has been guiding you to?
Oh my God. If you would have asked these questions like 10 years ago, I would have had specific things because it was like mind blowing. It's like, oh, this miraculous thing happened and this was and now I feel like it's like my whole day is filled of miracles all the time
Yeah.
that I'm so dull to it that I don't even like register
Mm,
the magic that unfolds all the time. I'm so used to it. It's like I can't
mhm.
think of one single thing because I feel I'm always following my
Yeah.
spark. I don't have a to-do list. I'm always kind of just listening and following.
Mm,
And it's
mm,
that Tao does not do, but nothing is never done
mhm,
principle,
mhm.
which, yeah, I
Wait,
don't.
say that principle again?
Tao does not do, but
Mm,
nothing is never done.
mhm. Can you say more about what that means to you?
So you don't have to put out a to-do list and force things and do, okay, now I'm going to do this and now I'm going to do this so everything gets done. It's like you kind of just flow, and on the way to over there, you kind of put the glass in this, you kind of things just unfold and happen in the moments between your exist. I can't even fully explain it, but it's like when you just flow, you're not doing, you're just kind of flowing through the day. And then
Mhm.
today, everything that needed to be done is done. The laundry is done, the emails are replied to, like everything is done. It's like a flow state that you get into where you're not doing anything. It just
Mhm.
done.
Yeah. And I was curious about that because I feel like I have a lot of clients and know a lot of people who are these, light workers, light beings who struggle with schedule and struggle with this balance of how do I plan my time and get things done in an effective, efficient way and, meet all of my objectives and also make space for that flow. So again, for someone who struggles with that specifically, like how do I manage the to-do list and the schedule and all these different things? What do you think? And it's like, yes, following the sparks, following the guidance. But for someone's like, I don't know, I'm like dropping the ball or things aren't getting done. What would you want to tell them?
Ooh, God. That it wasn't time. Because a lot of times, if it doesn't get done, then it will get done eventually in an effortless way.
Mm,
Like it's when you push that it's hard to do things, and we think it needs to get done now because that's what we're attached to. But also, if you let go, it kind of gets done in time. But
mhm.
yeah, I mean, that's how I function. Maybe that's not for everyone. But as you were speaking too, like the terms that were coming out about like to-do list, and I don't know, you said a few things, which was very heady and mental.
Mhm, mhm.
I think another big part of it is to, if we can operate from our heart and not like even the word schedule is very mental. Like the heart
Yeah.
doesn't schedule. So it's more rather than coming, how do I balance the schedule of the doing things and the flowing? And it's like that's the same thing because you kind of flow in the doing. When you flow,
Mhm.
the doing gets done without you doing it.
Mhm.
So I feel maybe more like to get out of the mind and just kind of feel what is next.
Mhm.
But I also like I've trained my mind so much to be in my heart rather than my mind. So I think it's harder if you're operating dominantly from the mind to make that.
Mhm.
And I think it's hard for me to be able to even bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Might not be the right person to
No, I love hearing your
that way.
perspective. And I feel like I can relate to both sides. I feel like growing up and from a young age, I was always very intuitive and connected to nature. And I think I was also a very logical, analytical person, whether because that's how I was innately or that's just like what I picked up from society. I don't know. But I think I was always called to and drawn to wanting to just go with the flow and come from my heart and all of that. So, especially as I became an entrepreneur, and I went on my own stepping out of the matrix period of I went on a year-long solo road trip and just trusted the flow, like, wherever I went and wherever I was guided, and that was, like, a deep kind of reprogramming, but then coming back, it was again of like, "Okay, what are my hours? Like, do I work 9 to 5, like, 40 hours a week?" And being able to really let go of the construct of, "This is what productivity looks like sitting at my desk and typing on a computer," versus knowing that for me, getting up and dancing, getting up and drumming helps me think clearly and step into that flow state and just like naturally flow to the next thing. So when I let myself do that, I can see what happens. But it's challenging, I think, sometimes to let go of the programming or ingrained habits of what our lives or our schedules or our days are supposed to look like.
Yeah, I I think you nailed it. It's programming. It's like a deprogramming that needs to happen to be
Mhm.
able to go into a flow state where everything gets done effortlessly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful journey to explore, and like you said, trial and error of just, like, see what happens if you give yourself an hour, if you give yourself a day to come from that more heart-centered flow space and just experiment and continue to open up to the universal divine guidance that you're getting. So, as we wrap up this interview, I always love to ask if there was one thing that people were taking away from this conversation or that you really wanted to leave people with, what message would that be?
To trust themselves. Yeah, to take back their power and sovereignty, really.
Mhm.
'Cause I
Beautiful.
think with the vibration automatically goes up, like we trust ourselves. It's yeah, it's that these cliches of self-love and self-respect and all these things, but it comes back to that.
Yeah, it's important. Well, I
Mhm.
know that you do this deep work, and for people who want to learn from you, work with you, how can they find you?
Well, the website is drumdoula.com, and both, yeah, the drum workshops, rattle making, and also the Akashic records are on there. And
Mhm.
Instagram is drumdoula as well. So,
Nice. Yeah, I know you've got some workshops coming up the next couple months in New York, New Jersey, those areas.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I cannot recommend working with Mia enough. So if you have the opportunity, whether virtually or in person, it was truly a magical experience. And I am excited to continue going on this journey with the drum and Gaia. So I'm so grateful for you following your spark and following that universal guidance. So thank you so much again for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.